Today we will be classifying triangles, and so I've listed some different types of triangles up here at the top, and so let's just review them. So we have a triangle is scalene. Scalene if each side is a different length, and so that's what they're showing you here, how this side's 4, this side's 5, this side's 6. So each number is different, each of these sides is different, so that's scalene. And then we have an isosceles triangle. Isosceles is when we have two sides are the same. Like here we have 7 and here we have 7. So this is called an isosceles triangle. And then we have an equilateral triangle. Equilateral triangle means all three sides are the same length. So notice how each of them is 2 meters here. Well, from there, we also have to be a little more specific. So we can have different types of scalene triangles. And these are the types we can have. We can either have an acute scalene triangle, and so acute means that if the third angle is acute, the triangle is an acute angle. So basically all angles are smaller than 90 degrees. So we have all angles, there's a symbol for angles here, so all angles are smaller than 90 degrees. So all of these angles in here are smaller than 90. It is an acute triangle. So we can have a scalene acute. We could have an isosceles acute. So those are different types of it. Being more specific when we talk about the type of triangle we have. We also have a right triangle. A right triangle, notice that the third angle is a right angle, and so this angle right here, we have to have a 90-degree angle. So if we have a 90-degree angle, we say it's a right triangle. And we can have different types of right triangles, like a scalene right. We could have an isosceles right. And we also have the one where we have an obtuse angle. So one of the angles, basically, the third angle they're saying here, is obtuse. The triangle is an obtuse triangle. So notice that one angle, here's my symbol for angle again, one angle is larger than 90 degrees. So if we've got an angle that's bigger than 90, like this angle definitely is bigger than 90, because 90 is like perpendicular here. There's one's going and then the other's going, making an elbow almost here. So that's 90 degrees. Obtuse is bigger than 90. And so we're going to use these different definitions to classify these triangles here. So that's what the directions ask us to do. Classify each triangle according to its sides and angles. And so when we look at this one, notice how these have all the same marking. When they have the same marking, that means all sides are equal because they all have the same marking. So we call this an equilateral triangle. And so this is the only one where we don't have to use these other definitions of like right, acute, obtuse. So equilateral, you just have the one. Now when we deal with an isosceles or a scalene triangle, then we'll have one of these extra 3 definitions to be more specific. So notice that these two sides here, this side here and this side here, have the same angle marking. That means these two sides are equal. So these are equal in length. And so if they're equal in length, we call this an isosceles triangle. And so we have to be more specific though. Notice how this is bigger than 90 degrees. So bigger than 90 degrees. And so if it's bigger than 90 degrees, we call this an isosceles obtuse or an obtuse isosceles. So we'll go obtuse isosceles. And so we're just being more specific as we're doing these problems. Looking at the next one, number 3, you look at all these angles and you see they're all smaller than 90. All angles, there's my symbol for angles again, all angles smaller than 90 degrees. And so if they're all smaller than 90 degrees, that means we have a scalene or an acute triangle. And it's scalene because we don't have any markings showing that any sides are the same. So we would call this a scalene acute. So last time I went with the obtuse first. You could go with either one first, it doesn't really matter. as long as you have both parts in there. Scalene acute is what I'll call this one here. So let me go ahead and circle the parts that are the answers here. And looking at the next one, notice that there's no sides that are equal because we don't have these angle markings here. So all sides are different. All sides are different. And we also have the angles being different. But this one right here, this is bigger than 90. Bigger than 90 degrees. And so if it's larger than 90 degrees, that means we have an obtuse. So we're going to call this a scalene obtuse. Scalene obtuse because it's bigger than 90 and all sides are different. Looking at the next one here. Here we have, notice that these two sides are equal. So here we have equal sides. Just make a note there. Equal sides, and there's only two of them that are equal, so we call this an isosceles. So I know it's an isosceles, and now we just need to figure out what kind of isosceles. Now notice this symbol right here means 90 degrees. So whenever you have a 90 degree angle, see, that means that we have a right angle right there. So isosceles right, we'll go ahead and call that one. And looking at the next one, here we have these little symbols right here. These mean the same. So these two sides here are equal sides. And so what we want to find out is what kind of angles we have here. Well, we have angles that are smaller than 90. Smaller than 90 degrees. Notice how 90 degrees would be like an elbow again, where it goes straight down and straight across. They're perpendicular. These are all smaller than 90. So we would call this an isosceles. Isosceles acute. And looking at this next one, notice how all sides are different. All sides are different. And I know they're all different because they don't have any markings showing that any are the same. But I have a right angle symbol here. So I call this a scalene right. In this one here, notice that all sides are different. Go ahead and circle these answers again so you can see those answers a little bit better. Notice all sides are different. All sides are different, and so if all sides are different, then obviously we've got ourselves a scalene triangle. So we can start with that. So we just need to figure out, is it acute, obtuse, or right? Well, no right angle symbol, and all angles are smaller than 90. So all angles smaller, there's my symbol for angles again, all angles smaller than 90 degrees. So we have ourselves a scalene acute. And the last one of this type, notice we've got the angle symbols here saying that these are equal. So equal sides, so we know we have an isosceles because we only have two sides that are equal. Isosceles, and this is obtuse. The reason it's obtuse is, notice this angle right here is bigger than 90 degrees. So if we have something bigger than 90, we're dealing with an obtuse. So the next set of directions asks us to describe the different sides or different kinds of triangles in each of the figures. And so look at their sides, look at their angles to determine what type we have here. And so if you look at this one, we have 4 triangles, and that's all we have because of the lines we've got going down. So there's one, here's another one, and then I'll change my color here so I can see another one here. So here's another one here, and then we have one last one right in here. So those are the only triangles we have. So I'll go ahead and show this one as a different color in here. So you can see the 4 different triangles. Notice they're all different sides, different lengths, so we have ourselves a scalene, and this angle is bigger than 90. So bigger than 90. And so if it's bigger than 90 degrees, we've got ourselves a scalene obtuse. And since there's 4 of them, we'll say 4 4 scalene obtuse triangles we see there. Now this one's got quite a few. Notice we've got this right here, so we've got 1, and then this one right here. Now this looks like a rectangle, so that means that these two sides are equal. This side and this side, this side and this side. Those are all equal. So what we call that is a scalene, or I'm sorry, an isosceles. So we got 2 isosceles. 2 isosceles acute angles. And so we see that, and then I see this one up top, so let's go ahead and show it in a different color here. We've got this one right here. This is another isosceles. Notice these two sides are the same, but this time we've got ourselves a obtuse, because this is bigger than 90. So we'll say we've got 2 isosceles obtuse. Well, we've got one more over here, and actually there's 4 of these, and they go this way. Here's one, and notice that it's right at a right angle right there. That's one of them, but notice all sides are different. So that's one, and this is going to be a scalene. A scalene because all sides are different, and it's right because we've got that right angle symbol right here. And actually they don't show it, but it looks like a rectangle, so I'll call this a right. But there's 4 of them. See, there's 1, 2, and then we've got 3 right in here, and then we've got this one over here, 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there's 4 of those scalene rights. Well, that's what your homework's on today. Good luck.